Hi, welcome to another week of Comic Cuts. It's Friday, it's the 22nd of May. This is about our sixth video, I think. A bit of a treat this week in that I'm not going to be the one talking all the way through. I've spoken this week to Ben Cullis, who is the editor of the 77. We had a few technical problems. I was hoping to talk to Ben last Friday, but we ended up sitting either end of the Skype line, whatever you call it, and neither knowing that the other was there. So we spoke again on Tuesday and managed to talk for half an hour before the line went dead. And then we spoke again briefly on Wednesday, but there were a few more technical problems. But the recording from that half-hour chat on Tuesday, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of that into this week's Comic Cuts column. And then over the weekend, I will release the full half-hour version or 28-minute version. Because it's very interesting, and Ben talks about how he came to set up the Kickstarter for the 77. Also, he goes into quite a lot of detail on what plans he has for the next few issues, and indeed for the next year, some of which are rather exciting. Those of you who have read Steve McManus's novel The Sheer Glam Conspiracy will know that it's set in a British comic publishing house, and a thread that's running behind the main storyline. A new comic is being prepared in a back room by these two mysterious figures. And at the end of the book, Steve has included the scripts for a number of these strips. One of these strips has been adapted and can be found in the 77. But the plan is to create Blaze, a new comic based around the remaining strips that were created for the Sheer Glam Conspiracy. But I shall let Ben tell you all about that. And I'll stick now just to bring you up to speed on what I've been doing. Monday and Tuesday, I managed to get quite a lot of relettering done. I'm recording this on Wednesday rather than Thursday because I want to give myself a little bit of extra time. And also it means that I can swing back and actually spend a full day on relettering on Thursday and Friday, rather than the rather disjointed way I've been doing things over the last couple of weeks. It's not really benefited me or the book. The relettering is going okay. I reckon I've got the first volume finished now, and I'll have started the second volume by the time you see this. So it's still going to be a little while before I'm finished, and I've still got some introductory material to write as well. I'm hoping to write some material about the various artists who worked on the strip. But hopefully it means that once I've got the relettering done and I can crack on with writing the textual material that I need to do, I can also reveal not only the name of the strip, but give you sight of the covers as well. So that should be with us, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. At the same time, I've been pottering away at another little project, which may or may not come to light. I'm gathering up some articles that I've written or I had partially written, and hopefully I can do. I'm kind of looking at it as a sort of fanzine type affair. One of the articles is about the Johnny Future book and its position and place in the Fantastic magazine that has been hanging around. I've had that article hanging around for 10 years now, and it hadn't been published. So that's one thing. There are a number of pieces on artists who have sadly passed on that I'd like to put into print, and I'll just see what else I can come up with. There's another article, for instance, on John Steele that I wrote back in 2011, I think, that I've never actually published. So with John Steele having come out recently from the book Palace, they reprinted 4 stories, and with 2 John Steele stories to appear in colour later this year from Rebellion, it seems an apt opportunity to publish that story and to do some research and write some material about the artist Louis Bermejo. I absolutely adore Louis Bermejo's work. He's drawn some of my favourite strips, including the John Steele stories, which are fantastic. But also, when I was doing the Boys World book, the Index Ticket to Adventure, he was one of the finest artists in there, with drawing the Sea Ape and various other strips. And, of course, was the artist chosen to fill in from Frank Bellamy on Heros the Spartan. What's less known is that he later took over the Princess Marigold strip for Treasure. So he had a huge range and was always, 100% gorgeous artwork. So it's going to be fun actually sitting down and taking a look at his work. When this will appear, I'm kind of writing it in spare moments, so I'm not 100% sure when it'll actually appear. Perhaps as soon as I finish the books, I can then sit down and quickly piece this together. Hopefully the text will be written. I'm doing it at weekends and at stray moments and early in the morning. But yeah, hopefully I can then pull all the images together and design the pages rather quickly. I may well do a shout out to other people and see if they can contribute something in the fine tradition of old fanzines. But yeah, it's something that I think would be quite fun. I'm coming off the back of Rocket, which is about 27,000 words. That was quite a long haul, and then I've gone straight into cleaning up artwork and relettering on these 2 new volumes. And with 230 pages, it's taken me, the majority of the year to get this far on these 2 projects. So it's going to be quite fun, just sitting down and writing something that's relatively short. Something that I can do fairly quickly, and hopefully have something prepared and ready to go in a rather more timely fashion. I still have to work out the practicalities of doing this, of course, so it's not going to happen immediately, but hopefully that'll be something for the future and something that you can look forward to from me. Anyway, I'm going to hand over to Ben. Hopefully our little chat will give you a little insight into how the 77 came about and what Ben has planned for the future. So I'm now going to say take it away me and take it away Ben. As you can probably guess, I'm thoroughly unprepared for this. So really it's just a case of let's have a chat. Obviously I'm very impressed by the 77. In your one of your messages, you said, "What's my favourite strip?" And I'm quite happy. There's 2 or 3 that I really liked. I liked the one about the floaty hand. That was
written by Keck.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that. But it's bizarrely the one that I keep coming back to is the one drawn by this young lad that you've got on board. He's like 11 years old.
I think it was his 12th birthday last week, Steve. Drew Marr, who lives in Dundee.
It's amazing. I looked at it and I thought, no, because I prefer as I grew up in the 1960s, I was drawn to a more realistic style of drawing. So I was growing up with Jesus Blasco and Eric Bradbury and artists like that. So, and that's the style of artwork that I've always preferred. So Don Lawrence, say, on the Trigon Empire, and even Ron Embleton, artists like that. But anything slightly off the wall, I kept coming back to it and thinking, I kind of dismissed it as I went over the page. Or scrolled through the page, I should say. But then I kept coming back to it and thinking, this is really good, and it's got a good coherent storyline. It's interesting. It's current, And it is. It's one of my favourites. I mean, there are others. I like Mal Earl's artwork, things like that. So, but it would be interesting to find out from you how you put the whole thing together. From the start.
Okay, but if I could just with Drew, I've got an idea. Basically, he won't be featuring in the next couple of issues, and as we're a quarterly publication. My thoughts are that I'm going to return to him on an annual basis if the comic keeps, is successful and keeps going. And we'll see over a period of time his development as well. I mean, he's not new to publishing, Steve. He's published about 7 or 8 comics and owns his own publication house.
Oh, Golden Lion? Gold Lion.
Yeah, Gold Lion. And I first saw his stuff in the Comic Scene 2019 annual.
Yeah.
And then read up on him, saw he had a website, and then got in touch with a couple of other people. I mean, he's got his fans. Ian Kennedy really rates him. I can't remember the guy's name, the editor of Beano. But my feeling was, if he's good enough for them, you know what I mean? He's certainly good enough for us. And gave him a chance, and I think he delivered. I mean, what we didn't do in the comic, and I think that was slightly remiss, but we just didn't really have space, Steve, was to run a full kind of bibliography on these people. But we have in our social media, in all of our groups, websites, all of our areas, kind of done creator interviews and background stuff. But anyone coming straight to the comic might well be kind of intrigued as what is this very different style. But anyone who's been told and has since found out has been very impressed, and I'm really pleased because it's where we're at. We want to bring people some of their heroes from their childhood. We've got some veterans involved. We want to bring contemporary professionals, and we're looking to break people and show potentially stars of the future. So that's our remit. And 77, if you were to ask me to sum it up in a sentence, it's a love letter to the comics that made us. So we have a wide span of years looking back, and my titles start with things like Whizzer and Chips, Monster Fun, Crazy, before I got into Action, 2000 AD. And then after 2000 AD, round about 600, Prog 600, so round about, would that be 1988, 89, I then was very much buying, Sandman, Hellblazer, a lot of Fantagraphic work, and obviously moving on to sort of Bill Sienkiewicz and lots of other sort of American style stuff. But it's people are going to spot, and I hope they do see the genres that we're looking to include. So there's going to be romance strips, there's going to be detective stories, there's going to be obviously space sci-fi fantasy stuff. So in an anthology, I know that people won't necessarily walk away having gone, I loved everything, but we always hope that there's going to be a good handful of stories that people will be intrigued with and want to pick up another copy. So, I think it hit its target. And obviously, while we're speaking now, we've had our kind of official launch on the 16th of May. We were doing online web chats on Zoom and stuff because we were going to actually have an official release launch at Lawless Convention in Bristol last weekend, but obviously that's been cancelled. But we've done what we can in what we've got, and we're now looking to sort of consolidate sales, get rid of our stock, and now we're planning for the next Kickstarter, Steve.
How did the Kickstarter come about? I mean, obviously you kickstarted the first one, and that was very successful. So I'm intrigued to know how that was set up, how quickly you achieved your target, what sort of people that were attracted to come to the Kickstarter and finance the first issue. Okay,
so people know us from our. It was called 1977 to 2000 AD. The 77 coming from that date, the title of the comic, and we've since rebranded the Facebook group, so now it's known as the 77 to 2000 AD. So it shows its link and allegiance there, I guess, as fanboys. But that's our fanzine. If you like, the Facebook group is a fanzine. That's the way I viewed it. And we always wanted to kind of run with our own IP, intellectual property and ideas. And we've been reviewing and writing stuff and looking at people's work and getting involved for a couple of years, and we've held competitions and events online. So like Inktober, Droptober have been included. We've had competitions and such like, and we held an event called the Squirrels last year, which was kind of well received, an award ceremony run by Dave Healy from the group. So when we had an understanding that we were going to create this comic, from suggestions from lots of people involved on our Facebook groups and other places, we really had to go with a Kickstarter because funds aren't available elsewhere. You can't go to a bank, Steve, and get a loan. I don't know if anyone in the 20th century ever got a loan for a comic, let alone the 21st century with all the financial issues that we've had over the last 10 years or so. So the Kickstarter was the way. So we researched it really thoroughly, and using our media platforms like Twitter, which is run by Dave Bedford from the group. He's one of the directors. So basically he runs Twitter, and we were obviously feeding that with the kind of news that the Kickstarter was coming. And then we have a page on Facebook, and we have a website as well on WordPress. So we were feeding all those channels and building up. Hopefully we got, I think it was 400 people were looking to find out more about the Kickstarter. So when we launched, they knew exactly what was starting. And we converted 200 of those people into backers. And then we gained another 200 odd. So we ended up with over 400 backers, which is an awful lot, to be honest with you, for an unknown title. I mean, a very successful Kickstarter at the tail end of last year was Rock the God, Wagner Grant and Cornwell's new offering, which is coming out later this year. And we're big fans. And incidentally, we had a feature advert in the first edition, which Dan Cornwell drew up specially. But they had, I mean, their target was huge. John's, a good employer, and he wanted to make sure that Dan was paid up front. And he's busy now working through that artwork. I think they raised 24,000, but didn't end up with quite as many backers as we had. Now, we're not in the same league in terms of being able to get the kind of money that they got, but we raised over 7,000, and that was gained within, the target was 3,777 for the want of having some sevens in it. We raised that in 96 hours.
That is astonishing.
Yeah, so we went on and got over 7. We can't say how things are going to go this way round, but sales continue to be strong. We've got Get My Comics, Adrian Clark and his brother's distribution firm are helping us with that. And obviously, because we have, a situation at the moment that all comic shops potentially aren't open, and other distributors which Get My Comics work through, we're having to sell through our own platforms, and theirs. But the aim is with Kickstarter 2 to print enough that then will be taken up and go through the usual channels. So I'm hoping that if you look at, for example, the places that Comic Scene is bought in, we'll be there alongside it.
Are you hoping, therefore, to go into WH Smith's as Comic Scene has done?
Yep. Yeah, and we're looking to. I've sent quite a large batch over to a group in New Zealand. Okay, they're going to be distributing it. We'd like to go to all the old territories as such, kind of places that would be interested in having an anthology comic. So we've got someone looking out for us in France and Spain. We might even have a translated copy go out digitally. And obviously, if we could get some interest in the States, I'm not saying we'll be selling in thousands over there, but get some editions out. So having an e-copy, a digital copy, has been really useful. So talking about Europe, Jean-Pierre Duenet, the founding publisher and editor of Météo Hulin, he contacted me, and we've sent him a copy, and he's doing his best to chat to some people. And we've got some kind of reasonably well-known, very well-known people, in fact, in the States, just saying nice things and reviewing it and passing it on. And that's all we can hope for, because you cannot buy it in shops, not because we wouldn't have got the distribution, but because those shops aren't open. So we didn't want to delay the launch. We're working on issues 2, 3, and 4 now. And we felt if we backed up the launch, the Kickstarter, people would understand, but we felt that they backed us and parted with their money. And as long as we could get the comic printed, so I think I'm not totally certain who we ended up with printing, but we were able to ensure that was done safely for those employees. And we've used non-contact distribution. So I'm using a parcel service where they come and collect all of the distributed copies that I'm handling in a box. And you leave it with them at the front door. And I had 2 boxes taken today. unfortunately, it meant there's been a tiny delay on some of the comics going out, and we're trying to sort all of that at the moment. But I would say out of the 400 backers, 370 have received their stuff, or should I say 370 of them, their items are in shipping now. So our aim always was to say that everybody should have their stuff by June, and here we are. We're 11, 10, 12 days away, and I think I'm going to hit that. We're just trying to sort out with a good friend of Ian Gibson's, a neighbour, who's going to go around and see Ian and collect his signed posters that he's done for us for Lifeboat. And that, I think, is the only thing. Nick Percival, great guy, did us a variant cover, really popular. He signed loads of posters, and I'm dealing with them today. So, what could have been a logistical issue has just meant a lot of hard work on my behalf, but I'll put the time in, and I think I've learned a lot. I think for the Kickstarter too, though, I think we're going to go much more with the distribution through Get My Comics. I think they'll be handling more of those items, but I'm sure you'd appreciate, and anyone who's, either set up a Kickstarter or followed one, you generally want to offer extra value items with them as well to kind of get better funding. So we've included prints. So we've got an A4 print from Leo Manco, who's doing Slain for 2000 AD and is obviously working on Space War with Pat Mills. And we've had the cover by Aid Hughes, who's working in V inside the comic. And again, he's working with Pat Mills on Space War. And we've got other items like, for example, Steve McManus and Keck and a couple of other script writers signed scripts for us. So we could then we could pass them on. But those are all flat items. So we offered T-shirts. And of course, the problem is with T-shirts is they're not easy to distribute with a comic. Yeah. So I've taken on those on board myself. But if you're going to do these things, you've got to appreciate it's a lot of hard work. And I've probably spent the last month now, I think 6 to 8 hours a day dealing with this, apart from the couple of days a week whereas I work. I'm a school teacher, and I work part time, and school teachers are still working, so I've had to fit what I'm doing around that. But yeah, it's been a lot of hard work, but it's something I get up in the morning and I think I found what I want to do.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll put up a longer version over the weekend where Ben talks more about Blaze. But I rather liked the idea of having an interview in Comic Cuts. Something slightly different. Some of the Q&As haven't really worked, and after the problems I had last week, I must admit I was rather disheartened by it. And doing an interview is rather fun, and I just thought, something a little bit different. So I do hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, I'm going to bring this to a close now. I'm actually going to sit down and read some books that I've been sent by Rebellion. And in fact, I can show you what they are. We have David Roach's Masters of British Comic Book Art. I'm really looking forward to that. Also, we've got the Complete Johnny Future, for which I wrote the introduction. It's a wonderful strip, and once again, Louis Bermejo. Can't go wrong. And I also received a copy of the Trigon Empire, which I managed to blag. By dint of the fact that I did some of the restoration work for it many years ago for the DLC, which is the Don Lawrence collection over in Holland. And I like to pick up copies of all the books that I've even minimal contribution to. So those books will keep me busy for the foreseeable future. And I can highly recommend all three. David's book is astonishingly good. I can't praise it highly enough, but I recommend all three books. The Trigon Empire, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous, and Johnny Future is just a strange, wonderful, fantastic 1960s strip, and it's the Rebellion have done us all a favour by reprinting it. Anyway, I shall leave it there. I hope you all stay safe, and I will see you again soon. All right, bye.
Hey.
Nearly. Try again.
Because she'll play football with anybody.
Yeah.
But we don't usually want her to do it in the winter because it gets so messy.
Yeah, yeah.
But she'll happily play with the football.
Yeah.
Come on then.